Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be sharing my process for drawing a pear in coloured pencil. So this is where the drawing is at so far. You can see I've already completed one pear along with some of the leaves, and in this video I'll be focusing on the second pear and I'll talk you through my full process including the colours that I use and a few tips and techniques along the way. You can use this process to create your own pear drawing, or if you'd prefer to follow along to this actual drawing, I do have the follow along step-by-step full-length tutorial available on my Patreon just in case that's of interest to you. So this is where things stand with the drawing so far. Let's zoom in and I'll talk you through the process. So the pencils I used in this drawing were Faber-Castell Polychromos and Caran d'Ache Luminance pencils. I've mentioned this in previous videos, but I really do like the combination of Polychromos and Luminance pencils. I love Luminance pencils because of their blendability, and also they've got some really beautiful colours in there as well. And I love Polychromos because they're a little harder, so it's nice to get in some crisp details. And this drawing was drawn on Rising Museum board. So I started this pear by drawing in the little stalk right at the bottom. I just blocked in the dark shapes to begin with using my dark sepia Polychromos pencil, and then I very carefully mapped out those really subtle peach tones at the bottom, which is basically where the light is reflecting off the curvature at the bottom of the pear. So I just wanted to block that in to begin with, and for that I used my cinnamon Polychromos pencil. So the general process I'm using for this pear is to very basically block in the basic colours. So all I'm thinking about is colours at the moment. I'm not thinking about form, details, texture, anything like that. I just want to get the white of the paper covered up. So I'm starting by blocking in some really subtle light reflections on the side of the pear. I'm using my middle verdigris Caran d'Ache Luminance pencil to block in those really light green touches on the edges where the light is hitting, as well as some light cobalt blue for the subtle, cooler sort of light reflections on the right hand side, which is in shadow but it's still casting a little bit of a glow. I then moved my attention to the golden tones. So this was mainly on the left where the light source was. I used my green ochre luminance pencil, just blocking that in. I used a little bit of pressure towards the left and then just gradually reduced that pressure as we moved into more of a green tone towards the centre of the pear. And then I'm starting to mix in some green tones. This is my olive green yellowish. I'm starting with the slightly dulled green tones. So these are not the brightest ones. These are the greens which we see in the shadows, which are a little bit more muted. Here I'm just blocking in the shadow from the leaf above. This is my moss green. This is a colour that I've used quite a lot throughout this drawing. I find it a really nice, neutral sort of green. It's not too bright, it's not too dull. So before I start to build up those really nice luscious greens in the centre, I'm just blocking in the shine, the highlight in the centre of the pear first. This is my cream Polychromos pencil. And this is where I'm starting to introduce some brighter greens. This is the May Green Polychromos pencil. I'm just slightly overlapping those duller tones that we've already applied, still with quite a light pressure, and I'm gradually bringing this forward towards the centre of the pear. So as we move towards the centre of the pear, the green tones start to become more of a yellow tone green. So this is where I'm introducing my olive yellow Caran d'Ache Luminance pencil. This is my absolute favourite pencil for this pear. Not only is it a perfect colour, but it's also a really great blending pencil. It works really well with the other pencils for creating that soft, smooth, blended appearance. So I'm generally applying a really light pressure, just overlapping all of those other colours, slightly loosening off my pressure towards the centre as well, near the highlight. So not forgetting, I'm just blocking in the basic colours to begin with. I'm overlapping that layer with another layer, just making sure I've got plenty of pigment down onto the paper. And here you can see me going in with a touch of solvent on a cotton bud or Q-tip. The solvent I like to use is Zest-It Pencil Blend. There are other brands available, so don't feel as though you have to use that exact one. And I've started from the centre of the pear near the highlight. This is where it's important to start with the light areas first, just to avoid bleeding any dark colours into those lighter areas. And all I'm doing here is soft circular movements with my cotton bud, moving all of that pigment around and very softly blending the pigment together. So now that we have all the basic colours blocked out, we can start working on amplifying those colours and working on the values, which is the lights and the darks, as well as working on the texture of the pear. So here you'll start to see me going back in with colours that we've previously used for the base layer, as well as some slightly deeper variations of those colours, which will help to richen them up and just give the overall drawing a saturated colour appearance. So here I'm using a little bit of burnt umber, just a really light pressure along that muted green, just bringing a little bit of an earthy colour into that shadow. Same along the other side, but with the olive green yellowish. This was one of the base layer colours that we used, so I'm going over once again. Slightly firmer pressure this time, but also applying lots of small circles, which will help to blend into the olive yellow colour. Here you can see me repeating the same process with the May green, again overlapping the other colours, lots of small circles. And the same again with the olive yellow luminance pencil. I'm applying a firmer pressure here, really saturating that colour. This isn't a super firm pressure, it's just a firmer pressure than what we used in the first place, apart from lighter towards that centre shine. But again, you can see I'm applying lots of circles. Once again, just a little softening of the pencil texture with a touch of solvent on my cotton bud. Again, you can see I'm doing exactly the same circular motion with my cotton bud, so all the pigment is starting to move and smooth out in the same sort of direction. Using my burnt sienna polychromos pencil, I'm starting to apply some of the dappled texture that we see on the skin of pears. I'm just applying a really soft pressure here, and my pencil isn't too sharp, it's semi-blunt. So lots of small, tiny little circles, some a little bit longer than others, especially around the curve of the pear, just so that we can capture the general look of the curvature of that pear. But generally, I'm applying small little blobs, so to speak. So as well as some brown tone dappled textures, I'm also going in with my olive green yellowish polychromos pencil to add in a few light green dappled details as well. So my pressure is really super light with this colour. Some of the textures on the pear are really quite subtle, so I don't want to apply too much pressure. And then for the shadow on the right hand side, I'm just applying a little bit of general shading of the olive green yellowish just to amplify that shadow, make it nice and deep. And this will help the lighter colours to pop as well. And then just a little bit of work on the shadowing, so going over some of the colours that I've already drawn and drawing in the shadow underneath the leaf, as well as just amplifying the shadows in general, just applying another layer of colour over the top. And then if you remember back to the base layer, I applied my green ochre luminance pencil for some of those golden tones on the left. So here I'm just going back in with that same pencil with a little bit more of a firmer pressure, overlapping all of those shadows that we've just finished amplifying. And this is going to help to bring those shadows to more of a golden tone. So I'm starting with a firmish pressure right in those deep tones on the left, and then gradually reducing my pressure as I move towards the centre. And then pretty much the same process on the right, but with the May green for those slightly brighter greens. Just doing a little bit of tidying up here, so I've got my sharp white pencil to crisp out the edges. And also just to add a little bit of a shine to the pear on the edge. And then for the part of the drawing which I think really brings it all together and just ties up the general texture of the pear as well. And not just brings out the smoothness of the pear, but I also think that this stage helps to smooth out the texture of the pencil as well, so it's super smooth. And this involves going over with my olive yellow Caran d'Ache Luminance pencil, which is a pencil that I said was one of my favourites for this pear. And this is quite a firmish pressure, and you can see I'm going over with lots of circles, and the pressure is helping to fuse all those colours together underneath, as well as giving it almost a little bit of a polishing finish to the texture. So that is pretty much it for the process of this pear, apart from to go back in with the burnt sienna right at the bottom. When I've gone over with my olive yellow with a firm pressure, it's lightened some of those golden textures a little bit. So I'm going back in just to amplify them and saturate those brown tones. So I'm using a mixture of light pressures just for a little bit of a peachy tone, and then a firmer pressures for those slightly golden burnt brown tones. Just about wrapping this tutorial up now, so all there is left to do is just a little bit of tidying up and crisping of some of the edges, which is what I'm doing here. And it's important to look on the objects around the pear as well, just to make sure that the shadows on those objects are amplified, which will help the pear to stand out. So here you can see I'm just going over with my moss green Caran d'Ache Luminance pencil just to amplify the shadow of the pear underneath, and that is helping to push the pear that we've just drawn a little bit further forward. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial and found it useful. It really is quite a simple process when you break it down into small steps. So like I mentioned at the beginning, if you want to follow along to the whole entire drawing, the leaves and everything, the link is in the description for the full tutorial. And if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care, bye!